the first law of leadership is the law of the lid. And if we don't raise our lid, how in the world can we help other people to lead?
Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, or as I call it, HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. So with Thaddeus and Evan, but it's just me. So Evan is currently helping his significant other pack up their stuff and move across the country. So exciting times for him and having the ability to be able to do that. But today we have on Chris Michel from Service Nation. I'm excited to have him on. In fact, we were chatting. We were a little bit late because we were getting a little bit into some of our conversations before we got going. When I asked him what his official title is, a training director, I'm like, what else? He's like, well, I am the training department. And so he handles a lot of the training in terms of that, but he's had a fascinating journey through the trades. He came from residential sales, then to a sales manager, then to an operations manager, then to general manager, went over to the manufacturing side as a TSM for a couple of years. Started his own consulting business before finally moving in to Service Nation just over a year and a half ago in May 2023. He's also he's done stand-up comedy in the past, so let's try not to put him on the spot with any jokes that we have. But when I was chatting with him before, I think one topic that I really want to get into, we're coming up to an election cycle in the U.S. going to be a big thing in consumer sentiment, and how does it play into this, along with the big R word that people keep throwing around and saying there's no recession, but there is a recession and we don't actually know, and diving into the consumer sentiment about that to be able to unpack some of that. It's going to be a fun episode, looking forward to it. But of course, today's podcast would not be possible without our sponsors. We have, in no particular order, On Purpose Media, Elite Call, Chirp, and Service World Expo. But let's start off with Service World Expo, because they're part of Service Nation Alliance, and you want to join us for the most magical contractor experience at the Service World Expo in Orlando, Florida from October 15th to 17th. So you can enjoy keynotes, breakout sessions, 4-hour workshops, social mixers, an exhibit hall with industry-leading products and podcasts like ours. We'll be there podcasting on their podcast stage. You want to network with other residential contractors and hear from some amazing keynotes, all designed to help contractors like you elevate your business. Register now and use promo code SECRETS100 for $100 off. Visit Service World Expo to register today, and we'll see you there. Transform your home service business with Chirp, the ultimate automation toolbox. Capture more leads, connect instantly, and skyrocket your sales. Chirp integrates seamlessly with platforms like Service Titan, House Call Pro, offering automated text messages, emails, ringless voicemails. You can boost your Google reviews and your customer loyalty with their proven rehash program. Schedule your demo today and get an exclusive 25% off your first 3 months. Visit chirp.com/HSSR to start boosting your revenue today. And if you've ever thought about, okay, well, I've got these text messages and ringless voicemails down, how about calling my database to fill my dispatch boards, especially as we're coming into shoulder season? Well, you can also boost your memberships with Elite Call, a US-based call center that does just that. For over 20 years, their dedicated teams don't just make calls. They directly integrate appointments into your CRM and fill your dispatch boards. Don't let your competition get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers first. Visit EliteCall.net to learn more. And last but certainly not least is On Purpose Media, and you can enhance your online presence with the go-to home service marketing expert for everything web design, SEO, and PPC. Well, guess what? We build stunning user-friendly websites that built to convert. We also give you enhanced visibility on Google with effective pay-per-click ad spends or ads, minimizing wasted ad spend. So let's turn your online presence to a lead-generating powerhouse. Visit onpurposemedia.ca today to start your transformation in the digital world. Thank you, Chris, for taking the time out to chat with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Thaddeus. This is
no worries.
Really cool to be here. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, and appreciate your team at Service Nation for help lining it up. I believe Jasmine, big shout out to her for getting her done and getting across the goal line. So, well, let's start off. I already read the little bit of the journey. The residential sales manager, operations manager, general manager, but et cetera. But one thing that is not in there is how you got started into the actual industry itself. So let's start there.
Yeah, actually, I was working in the food processing industry, and a buddy of mine, I was traveling all the time, and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, do you want to stay home?" And I had younger kids at the time, so I was like, "Well, sure, I'd love to do that." And he said, "Well, we probably have an opening in our sales department." So I went and interviewed and started right after Easter in 2004. And that was, as they say, the beginning of the end, and where I got involved and started getting hooked and just couldn't get out. Right. And I think too often some of us, we go, oh, I'm just going to do this for so many years and then I'm going to get out. And so here we are 20 years later, and I'm still enjoying it. I've gone through so many different phases. As you said, I've been on the sales side and management side. And one of the things that I got to do over and over and over again was I got to train people, and I got to see them to be successful and see them really give those aha moments. And I just kept moving closer and closer towards doing that. And so now here I am, and I get to work with contractors on a regular basis and help them have those aha moments and see them be successful on a consistent basis.
Well, and that's, you think about that when you come from sales to manager and doing those things, is having those aha moments and seeing people succeed. But oftentimes I think a lot of people have that tough transition from going in the field, doing the work, into management.
Oh
Very
yeah.
tough transition for a lot of people to do. What was that experience like? And if you're talking to somebody that might be going through that, and or an owner who is promoting somebody from the field into management, what are some of the things that you're going to want them to look out for?
Boy, that's a great question, because a lot of times we think that if you're successful in the field or you're successful as a CSR, then maybe your next level is to supervise or to manage. And what we don't realize sometimes is they're not built for that, and they don't have the temperament for that, or they don't have the skills for that. And some people don't want to do anything more than be the best at what they do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But as owners, sometimes we get disillusioned and we think, oh, I've got to make this work. I've got to give this person a promotion. Well, you're creating a scenario that may not be best for a lot of people, not the least of which is when I became a manager, I had to move locations, because being a manager in the current location meant now I'm going to be the manager over the people that I was just peers with, right? And so they know the down and dirty secrets. We used to have the conversations in the parking lots, right? The meetings after the meetings. And so I think a lot of times we forget, as owners or managers, we forget that it's a difficult transition to make from technician or CSR or customer service rep to a supervisory or even a managerial position. And so I was lucky. I had a great mentor working with me when I made that transition. I moved from Atlanta to Memphis to run a business, and I got the opportunity over there to do some things. And he really kind of held my hand and helped me to understand how to not just be a leader, but then how to produce other leaders. And I think that's the other piece that we don't think about or do very well, is we don't know how to lead other people into leadership. And we don't know how to bring them from where they are to developing them and their soft skills and their managerial or leadership skills. And so there's a lot of things that go into that we can very easily skip over just because we go, oh, I just need to put somebody in this position. Right. And we forget all the soft skills.
Well, and you like, oftentimes the best performing person in the field or the CSR or any type of role isn't always the best candidate for management or for leadership.
Right.
Just because they're good at what they do doesn't mean that they can lead people. And I think that's a big misnomer. It's like, oh, you're the best, I'm going to put you in there. Well, no, that's actually not actually factually correct. So one thing that, produce other leaders. And I think there's different nuances and pivot points in business where, you're 0 to 2, 0 to 3 million in HVAC. Well, it's not so much about developing leaders. It's just developing the systems, developing features. Now, when you want to pivot and go from 3 to 5 to 6, now it's okay. How do we produce and develop leaders in the business to be able to lead with that initiative? And then, of course, when you get past that, now those leaders developing leaders, and it's, it just becomes a cyclical thing. So right. I always like to put on the hat of I'm a business owner, $2-3 million, 1 million, whatever the number is. Now I need to actually produce leaders. But I don't know how to even begin, or what to even do, or what even to look at, right? Like that's there. I think there's a starting point right there. And so when you look at that part of a business journey and that aspect of things, what's something that you would tell a business owner who is in that particular seat?
So again, this is where it gets challenging because some of the business owners have never been taught leadership skills. They turned a wrench for so many years, and they naturally became the leader because they got tired of running the truck by themselves, and so they added one more person and one more person, and they were friends, and yeah, they're kind of leading them, but they're not really leading them. And so, how do you develop, right? How do you do the things that need to be done so that you can be a better leader? Well, one of the things that I've learned, and I continue to learn, is you have to improve yourself. You and I talked about this, but I just became Maxwell Leadership Certified. And it's a very interesting process because you're learning a lot about leadership. And one of the things that John Maxwell talks, and he kind of preaches on it a lot, is there's the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. The first law of leadership is the law of the lid. And if we don't raise our lid, how in the world can we help other people to lead, right? So if I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, if I'm only a 5, I can't lead anybody more than a 4, right? Or a 3 or a 2 or a 1. I will not be able to sustainably lead a 7 or an 8, and they probably won't be attracted to me as a 5. If I'm a 7 or an 8, okay, now I can lead a 6 or a 5 or a 4, right? I can lift up the people that are leading below me because of the things that I do. It may come to pass that maybe I'm teaching somebody that has now, I'm a 7, and I bring them up to a 7, and now I can't do any more with them. And so I have to pass them on to somebody else, right? So they continue to grow, and so they surpass me. And so now they get to be better, do better. And a lot of that comes down to training. It comes down to, number one, self-reflection and being able to observe and learn, and mentors and, people around us that are obviously above us or ahead of us in this journey. And as we learn from them, we get to grow in our abilities to lead and to lead others.
And that law, the raising your lid, the law of the lid, is such an impactful thing. It's actually funny. I had our Q3 State of the Company address for clients and for our team, and I was like Q3 in September. Well, it's just we run it on the EOS calendar, and the EOS calendar isn't necessarily always an EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System, for those that know, for our marketing company. And it was like the quote that said, "If you ain't growing, you're dying." Because really, I mean, what got you here won't get you there. And there's no such thing as the perfect employee or the perfect team member for 2 years. There's the perfect person for right now. But in order to be able to become that person perfect, and by the way, you can insert this into your relationship, your personal life, your friends, whatever. There's no such thing as a perfect person for 2 years, for 12 months from now, for 2 years from now, for 3 years from now. Yeah, perfect person has to grow and change with the times. And if you're not growing and changing and adapting and learning and evolving, well, you're never going to get past that. Right now, enter in, obviously, I'll do a shameless plug for you. Service Nation probably has a bunch of has leadership training to be able to help people on that. But
we have a few classes.
You got a few classes, right? And look, there's tons of resources out there. I mean, shit, go get an Audible membership and listen to books.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, and that's the thing. That's a start, up leveling yourself. People are like, well, I don't read. Like, I'm not a big reader, but I listen to books. I consume books. I consume short articles. And so that's the easiest way, but then be amenable to that change. So, no, fascinating stuff. And so one of the things coming up too is you look at, okay, well, how do I raise my lid? How do I pivot? How do I adapt? How do I become, improving myself? And naturally, by the way, before I get into the next question, when somebody does that too, when you are looking at raising your own lid, you're going to make mistakes in leadership. You're going to make mistakes in management. You're going to make mistakes with people, and that's okay, as long as you learn from the mistakes and try not to repeat them. So when you talk about, pivoting and raising the lid and understanding nuances in people, and obviously how to lead people, we're coming up to, controversial time for some, pretty much for all. Let's be real. It's an election year, right? Coming up into the fall election, and when it hits its head, and in a couple months, it's going to be a wild time for a lot of people. I'm not going to get into the divisive nature of U.S. politics, because we're in Canada and we're just as divisive. So, but look, there's no, I'm not here to debate the right or wrong on the sides of it. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be, consumer sentiment is off. You're looking at increased ad spends for marketing because the election is coming on there. You're looking at the big R word in the recession, and you read like the US dollar and when it's going to have a collapse next year, and all these things that are hitting everybody.
Yeah.
Right. hesitancy from a consumer standpoint, how does a business adapt to that? What do they need to be putting in place today to be able to prepare themselves for the fall?
Man, you got some really good questions there, Thaddeus.
Nailing
You
it,
know,
Evan. You are no longer needed.
I didn't say that. Evan, he said it, not me. I think, at least for me, the thing that I see time and time again is if we're not preparing for the future, it's a Maxwellism, right? If you're not prepared when the opportunity arises, it's too late because you can't prep in the moment. Now, can I prepare for the future and when these things happen? Absolutely. And I think a lot of times we think we're more reactive than proactive as contractors. And so all of a sudden our marketing dries up and the phone stopped ringing and we're going, oh my gosh, now what do I do? And you should have been, right, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, you should have been looking at the future and going, okay, school's going to start. We're going to see some slow times. Oh, by the way, we've also got this thing called the fall coming up, and we drop into the 60s and 70-degree temperatures, and people just back off. And then, oh, by the way, we're also going to have this election coming up, and on top of that, we're going to change refrigerants. And right, there's just so many things that are going on, and it causes fear in the eyes of the consumer. And when they're afraid, if we don't do a proper job of educating them and helping them to understand what there really is to be afraid of and what there isn't, you know, your heater dying in the middle of winter on a Christmas Day or Boxing Day, you got 30 friends over and your system quits. Well, that's a problem, right? Now you have to have somebody come out. Well, what if we can prevent that? What if we can do repairs or replacement? Or what are we doing to help out? Plumbing, same concepts, right? Are we doing things to be preventative? And are we working our plan year round for marketing? Are we training our people year round? And not just when it's convenient, not just when it's slow, but are we doing these things on a consistent basis? Consistency is what will drive out fear. And that's what also drives out the inconsistency in our business too, right? If you want to be consistent in your business, consistently work on it, consistently work at it, consistently do the things that, and you and I are in a business where we're the first two things that go, right? When things get hard, what do? Let's throw out marketing, let's throw out training. It's like, right. Hey guys, these are the two things that are going to help your business grow more than anything else. Short of putting a new person in a truck or in a, behind a desk, these are the two things that really can help your business grow and flourish more than anything else. But you have to be consistent.
Right. And I mean, people look at it as a line item and not the investment into their business and their people. And that's a big switch. I mean, that's always an uphill battle. And I would think that marketing is probably the first one to go and training is the second one to go. But it's so counterintuitive. Like, and that's the part that always gets me is like, okay, well, I'm going to cut marketing. I'm like, well, okay, like why? Like, because it's going down.
Well,
like,
I think this is the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is you didn't plan for it. And now all of a sudden you're in a situation where you're not holding the marketing team accountable for what they're doing and how you're spending and all that, right? If we know these things and we're doing it properly, guess what? Preparation meets opportunity. It's called luck, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you got to be good to be lucky or lucky to be good?
Exactly.
Yes. Both. You mentioned something at the very end there, holding your marketing team accountable. And I'm sure that in your previous roles, you've done some of that as well. And working with a marketing company, working with a marketing team. What are some of the ways that you've utilized it in the past? And what are some of the ways that you educate contractors on to be able to work with the marketing team and hold them accountable?
I think the biggest thing is to understand where you're spending and what the return is on it, right? If you can get real information and we don't have to wait 6 months to figure out whether or not this is working. What we can do is we can monitor this stuff on a consistent basis and say, yes, this is making sense. Now, if I start something today, it doesn't mean that tomorrow my phones are going to ring. It doesn't mean that next Monday my phones are going to ring. It may take a week or two for you to build up that brand or build up that marketing for people to go, oh, now these are the guys I need to call. You should always be working on your brand, right? You should always be out there in your community and giving and working and helping develop the brand that is your company in your community. And if you're doing those things on top of the marketing and understanding where you're spending money and what kind of return it's giving you, and don't be like everybody else. I was working for a company one time, and there was a new person in charge of marketing, and they said, "Hey, we're going to do it this way." And we were a boutique type of HVAC company. And so we were very clear on who our market was. And it wasn't like everybody else. And there was one company in town, two companies in town that were just all over the map. And they were throwing money everywhere. And they were just spend on just, we'll do it for $99. We're not that company. And so our marketing person came to me as the sales manager, and they said, "Oh, we're going to do this." And I said, "Why? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't speak to who we are." And so if we don't understand who we are, we don't understand our culture, we don't understand our why, we don't understand who we are as a business, and we go out and we spend money like everybody else is spending money, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot. So that's where I talk about accountability and understanding, what does that mean and what does that look like? And does it speak to who you are? Are you attracting the clients that you want, not necessarily that you need? Because the ones you think you need aren't the ones that are going to be good for you and your business.
Well, and that's such a key point, because like marketing companies, like we are one. We are not in your business daily on a day-by-day basis. We don't know your brand, your lexicon, your culture. I mean, we can get a pretty good understanding by having questions, but at the end of the day, it's okay to push back on some of the ideas if you know, right? But if your marketing company also isn't bringing some of those things over, obviously that's part of it, right? I mean, we meet with our clients monthly in some of our programs get quarterly, and so we have these conversations about planning for it, which is an important thing. But the one thing you mentioned there is branding and community and involvement in there. And now as you come in, and so like there's these ebbs and flows in terms of the digital side of marketing right now. Obviously coming into shoulder season, demand is a little bit lower, people aren't searching as much, depending on where you're at. Obviously, as we're transitioning into Canada, like Canada right now, my furnace runs in the morning and my AC runs at night. Like, it's wild.
It's a beautiful time of the year, by the way.
Right,
I love this time of the year.
Yeah, I love coming into fall. I mean, the colors are gorgeous. You know, we're still hitting, like low 80s Fahrenheit, but we're getting down to like 50s at night. So we don't actually have to run our furnaces. We can just usually it's just the AC in the afternoon, but there's really not as much demand, right? Because people my AC runs like 45 minutes in a day, and that's it, right? And then you look into the southern states, and so you're coming into this pivotal time where you say, okay, well, I can actually potentially reduce some of my expenditures on the Google ads or the Facebook sides, and where you're increasing that. I would never recommend, by the way, reducing SEO over the winter time, because that doesn't make any sense, because you're positioning for next year, right? But you can reduce some of that spend there, and now we'll reinvest that back into branding and community. It's a longer term play. Then when you do the branding and community, well, when it comes back to your busy season again, depending on what part of the North America you're in, well, you can ramp up some of your digital and do some of that branding and community. Now you keep it consistent in terms of the budget that you're spending, and it works out it works out better in the long run. So love that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to transition into our random question generator. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the show, because it's a question that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it is also brought to you by the lovely folks at On Purpose Media. Hey, that's us, where you can get a second opinion on your marketing efforts. So if this marketing conversation is like, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, well, reach out on purposemedia.ca/second-opinion, and we'll be happy to have a call and give you a second opinion. No obligations, by the way, on what you got on the go. So the random question generator, there's 3 questions that I got on my screen. You don't get to know what the questions are, Chris. You just get to choose. Do you want question 1, 2, or 3? I haven't even read them this time, so I'm going to go with exactly what you say. I'm not going to gate this and give you some random one that I think is going to be funnier. So
that's all right. We'll go with number 3. We'll stick with 3. Yeah.
This one's funny. What's your go-to dance move when you're alone in an elevator?
Oh gosh. I am such I have serious white man syndrome when it comes to dancing and dance moves.
The sprinkler.
It's the bite the lower lip, and the hands move back and forth. Just that
hip movement whatsoever.
Very little. Yeah, I might hurt something if I do. So I have to be really careful.
Throw your back out.
Right. I'm at an age now where that's real. Those are real problems.
It's funny. I was talking with my neighbor, and I was kind of like walking around with my head on a little kink. She's like, "Sorry with you." I'm like, "I don't know." I woke up and I got this kink in my neck. She's like, "It's okay, Dad." And she's like, "Hey, are you walking a little funny?" I'm like, "Well, I did 20 squats the other day. My legs are." I'm like, 20 squats and my legs are sore. She's like, "Dad, it's okay." I sneezed and threw my back out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. But I mean, I did have the kink in my neck because
right?
I woke up in the wrong position. My neck was kinked. It was weird. So, you are a best-selling author. I'm going to call it a best-selling author. So,
Well, I
of the
appreciate that.
red chair experience. And I was looking at some of the things, daily inspiration for success in life and business. And I know that you said some people don't like to talk about the topic about the book, but I think it's a relevant and important topic to talk about on the book, the red chair experience. Tell us about the book.
Well, yeah, in my heart, it is a bestseller. Let's just go with that. So we'll leave it at that. But it came about as a result of in 2019, my brother died by suicide, and 6 months later, we hit the pandemic. And a buddy of mine sent me a meme and said, "If during this time you're not working on your side hustle, doing something to improve yourself, it's not that you didn't have the time, but you're wasting time. You've wasted it." And that really hit home for me. And when you have somebody that is close to you and dies, that it kind of sets your mind in this really interesting spot where you start to question a lot of things, and you start to go, what am I doing this for? And why am I doing that? And am I doing the things that I really love to do? And I always thought that I wanted to write a book. I just didn't know about what. And I was reading these daily inspirations, and I thought, you know what, that's what it is. And so I just started writing and learned that it was therapeutic and cathartic for me to do such, to help me to work through the grief that I was encountering between my brother. And then as I was writing the book, my dad died, and I got COVID pneumonia, and, all these things. And then my grandson was born, and there's some positive things that came, but there was a lot of transition, a lot of life events that came about. And the red chair is actually the book on the cover, or the chair on the cover of the book is my red chair. It's a red leather recliner that sits in my ensuite. And it's where I go to sit and meditate and feel feelings and pray or read or just do that, that personal time in the morning when I like to just sit and contemplate what's going on and what do I need to do for the day or the week or the month. And that's where that came from. And that's because he was one of the previous owners, my brother was. So, but yeah, and obviously we're having this conversation in September, and September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And so it's very interesting, very timely. And I think a lot of times we, especially as men, we don't think that we want to talk about that stuff. But when we realize that there are other people just like us, there are other people that have had these thoughts or these conversations, or maybe they're feeling less than. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to somebody that you can relate to, because you'll find out that you're not that different, and we all have similar struggles, and it's okay. And that we were talking earlier about how, man, there's this fine line between genius, right? These comedic geniuses, and depression. And what does that look like? And it's really interesting when you start to look at some of these people like Robin Williams or Chris Farley or John Belushi, or you start to look at some of these comedic greats, and you go, man, what happened? Where were they at? Or what was going on? And you start to realize what that fine line really is. And my daughter asked me a really interesting question, and I say it's interesting. It was really actually it was heartbreaking that she would even feel the need to ask me this. But at 19, when my brother died, she was 19 years old, and she said, "Dad, do you think you could do that?" And I was heartbroken when she asked me that. And I had to think, I had to pause for a second, and I didn't want to lie to her, but I wanted to be honest and real. And I said, well, I think we're all capable of it if we don't talk, if we don't have the conversations, and we don't talk about the things that are going on and bothering us. And I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but that's certainly one thing that can help us move forward in getting the help that we need.
Well, and certainly, I mean, especially in 2024, and I think the last, 4 years, 5 years of navigating that COVID world where people just weren't okay, and there was a
Yeah.
lot of mental anguish that folks were facing. You need to talk about it. And actually, you sparked a memory for me in one of the conversations I had. I mean, I don't remember my age. I mean, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. We had a cousin that had committed suicide as well.
Mm.
And I didn't know him, very distant. And I remember my dad sitting down and like we grew up in a gun household, and so we had firearms, and it was,
Yeah.
I mean, mind a long rifle, not handgun, and so it's still possible. And I remember having that conversation, like, yeah, we have access to that. He's like, they're just that is there's nothing so bad in life that you need to resort to that. If there is anything, you need to reach out, you need to have a conversation, you need to ask for help, because at the end of the day, if you ask for help on something, nobody's ever going to get mad at you for asking for help.
Yeah.
And like, I remember now, I mean, it's coming vivid. I mean, smart man, but I mean, the really essence of that is that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to reach out for help. And by the way, if you are ever feeling like you need to reach out to somebody, I mean, obviously you can hit me up. I mean, if you're watching this on whatever platform, send us a message. You can find me personally on my Facebook page and send me a message. I mean, you can send Chris a message as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe you want to email him, C Michel, Michel at servicenation.com. I'll put that on our show notes as well. And like, and just know that there's better support mechanisms that are out there for you. And especially as men, we don't have to do that. We don't have to resort to that, and that you can have confidence in others itself. So appreciate you sharing that. I actually want to get a copy of this book, because I like, when I was reading, it's daily inspirations, motivations, and meditations. The one part that I like to meditate and feel feelings. The EOS world, we talk about clarity breaks, and how do we have this decompression to be able to think through our thoughts. If somebody has never heard this concept before of just sitting there and meditating and feeling feelings, and not necessarily meditating, it's like, okay, breathe in 4 seconds through your nose, hold it for 4 seconds, out 8 seconds through your mouth. Like, you don't need to necessarily do that to have a meditation, to be able to feel things, to just let your body be. But if somebody's new to this concept and they're hearing, well, meditation sounds kind of hippy dippy to me, sitting there feeling my feelings, what do you say to that type of a person? How do you be able to get this in place for them? Because it's huge. It's important.
Well, it is. And I grew up in a single parent household with my dad and my 2 brothers. So there's a little twist for you, right? I didn't grow up in a traditional single parent household with a mother. And we grew up in this house. It was all guys. And I am kind of seriously joking that the 3 emotions that we knew were anger, bitterness, and rage. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a lot of warm, fuzzy, let's share our feelings and let's talk about it. And I had to learn through reading, through talking, through getting with other people and experiencing some things. But there's a book. It's called Unf Your Brain. And it's a fantastic book. And one of the things I learned from that is that Dr. Faith Harper talks about emotions in that book. And the one thing she says is that emotions are designed to only last 90 seconds. And if you think about that, the problem is that we run the replay over and over and over and over again. That's the problem. It's not that we didn't. Sometimes we stop the emotion. And when we block the emotion, we don't let it run its course. And when we don't, that becomes problematic. If we allow it to run its course, we sit in the feelings. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel depressed. I feel happy. I feel whatever, right? I feel bitter. I feel envious, right? I feel jealous. Whatever that is, it's okay to feel the feelings. It's okay to sit in that for a moment, 60, 90 seconds. Understand that this too shall pass, right? There's a reason for that saying. And that part of that passing is the emotion itself. When you do that, you come into this moment of clarity. You come into this, okay, now I can see, right? But you hear about people who get so angry, their eyes turn black, right? Or they see red, they see red or black. And because they've built it up so much and they don't know how to release it. And the only way they know how to release it is through anger, bitterness, or rage, right? And they rage out on people. And it's difficult to do that to your point, if you've never done that before, you have to learn to be able to just, all right, what is that? What's that wave? What's going on, right? I share it like this. When you take a shower and the water hits your head, right? And for me, that's it. It hits my head and then it's gone. But
I got massaged into my hair.
Right. But when the water hits your head, right, there's an opportunity for it to flow down your body. Imagine if you put a couple of buckets here and you held the water that hit your head and now is going into the buckets. Imagine what that's doing to you. Emotionally, that's what we do when we shut off our feelings, right? And it becomes this burden and we don't understand, why is this so heavy and why do I feel this way? And right. And we don't work through that. We don't allow the water to continue to flow. If we allow the water to continue to flow, AKA the emotions, it's amazing that you don't have that weight on your shoulders. You won't have that deep aching feeling of resentment or bitterness or rage. And you can actually work through these emotions.
I wish you could tell my toddler that emotions only last for 90 seconds. But no, you are right. Like, and again, you got to process, you got to let it go. And this is why I like the part about, the whole clarity aspect of just sitting there and thinking and letting it go through and letting it happen. Because when you can do that, now again, on the other side of your emotions is your clarity break, right? And that's where you can get really diving into that. So thank you for sharing that piece. As we start to wrap up kind of on our time limit, obviously we haven't even really talked much about Service Nation and what it can do. And I appreciate the non-plugging nature of it, because again, it's leading with value. So of course, Chris is with Service Nation, servicenation.com. So walk us through a little bit about what you have on the go with Service Nation and why somebody should look at seriously joining the organization.
Gosh, we are a best practices group for the trades, and we help contractors live better lives. We help you to realize the freedom that is waiting on the other side of whatever it is that's holding you back. And so we have different things that can help you to do that. We can help you with relationships, building relationships with other contractors who either are in the same shoes that you're in or have been in the same shoes that you've been in, and they can help you through those things. We have coaching, we have training. We've got, you guys can't see the detail here, but there's over 100 classes that we're doing next year. This is 2025. And we've got over 100 classes that we're going to be sharing with people. And they're based on our pillars that we found over the last 20 plus years are really the core for what contractors do for being successful, right? And it's in marketing, it's in sales, it's in leadership, it's in operations, it's in HR, it's all these little things. And it's not that we've got a corner in the market. There's other best practices groups out there, but there's none that I've seen like us. And we help with the relationships. We help with mentorships. We've got mentoring groups that we kind of help you out with. But it all comes back to you. Are you, and this is another Maxwellism, are you willing to get the help that you need? Because you're only going to change when you want to, when it hurts so bad that you need to, when you learned enough that you're like, okay, I can do this, or you're inspired to. And so if you're willing to make a change, if you're frustrated with, hey, I don't want to be $1 million company anymore. I want to be a 2 or a 3 or a 5, or I'm tired of not making any money, even though we're a $3 million company. Okay, well, we've got some things that can help you. And we've got partners that we work with marketing and right, all of these things that can help you to get better at what you do. Again, we don't have all the answers, but we've got a lot of really good people who know all the answers.
And that's the part about the best practice. And I'm glad you mentioned the part about, the Maxwellisms is that you got to reach out and you got to seek the help. I mean, oftentimes best practice groups can get a bad rap. It's like, well, they didn't help me. It's like, okay, well, did you put in the work?
Right.
No, well then fuck, no matter what best practice group you joined, you're never going to get to success from it because you didn't put in the work. And so Love that aspect of adding that in there. So hey, look, Evan's actually watching right now. Can't wait for Service World Expo. So apparently
Hi, Evan.
Taking a break. Hi, Evan. So Evan, in case you're watching, Chris said earlier that I'm doing a way better job than you ever would. So
I did not say that, Evan.
He did not say that. He did not say that. I said we don't need Evan, and he said I never said that. I never said that. So I like to have a lot of
that discussion.
I would like to have a lot of fun with what we do, if you can't tell. So as we wrap up, of course, if you want to get in touch with Chris, I already mentioned his email earlier, cmichel@servicenation.com. Of course, we have the Service World Expo.com. Use this code, by the way, Secrets100 to get $100 off. Servicenation.com is their website. Of course, you want to hit them up on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/IN/Coach Chris 84. But Chris, I just don't end it there. I've got one final question here for you. What is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't?
Gosh. I think that it really comes back to our willingness to get help. And I think when people realize that there are people out there, and it's not just me, I don't think I hear this enough from people, is, hey, how can I support you? Right. And I asked that question of a lot of people, because when I had my own consulting business, that was the one thing I wanted to do. Was I'm not here to change your life unless you want me to, right? I'm not here to give you all these things unless you want it. You have to want it more than I have to want it. And so how can I support you is, man, that question is a barn burner, right? I mean, that's just going to stop you dead in your tracks, and you go, wow, support me. What do you mean by support me? I mean, exactly that. What can I do to support you, right? Because it's your business, it's your life. What kind of freedom do you want? Service World Expo is a great example, right? We've got a number of vendor partners that are going to be there that can help you if you want the help. We've got a number of classes that are workshops for you to come and learn if you want to. And there's all kinds of things that are available to you if you want it. So how can I support you is a great question. And if more people learn how to use that in the right way, man, they're just going to skyrocket.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it, right? And you gotta be a little bit vulnerable at times to be able to ask that question. And it goes back to what we're talking about. In a sense of it's okay not to be okay, but you also have to ask for help, right? No matter what it is,
absolutely.
life, business, et cetera, marriage, relationship, kids. Like somewhere in life, somebody has been there, done that, and they got the T-shirt. Right. They already have went through that particular situation, or one that is eerily similar to it. And why not stand on the shoulders of somebody else who has done that to be able to help you get over it? Right. You're not alone in this situation, in this scenario. So I love that aspect of things. So, Chris, thank you for coming on, taking the time out of your day to come on and chat with us. Sorry to disappoint that it was just me and not Evan and me, but I think it was arguably a pretty good show. So definitely enjoy sometimes when it is solo. I mean, obviously miss the co-host aspect of things, but thank you for taking the time to come on, and I look forward to shaking your hand at Service World Expo coming up here in a month and a half.
Absolutely. We'll see you very soon. Thank you, Thaddeus. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks everybody. Until next time. Cheers. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.